Hi, everyone. So excited that you can join us. My name is Tatiana Kolavu, coming from Athens, Greece. This is Stronger, our newsletter slash live show. And I am very happy to be broadcasting from across the world. Usually I'm in Bloomington, Indiana. I'm in Athens, Greece, a little bit on the south side of the city by the sea. It's getting a little cloudy, and I hope it doesn't get too cloudy soon so it gets too dark for me. But today I wanted to talk about and hopefully hear from all of you topics and ideas and thoughts about standing out in a crowd. If you ever think of going to maybe a conference or a meeting or a presentation where everyone stands around and chats afterwards, you want to be able to stand out with the comments that you make or even with the stance that you have, how you walk into the room, how you approach a group, how you enter a conversation, and how you say things that make you memorable. So I wrote a newsletter on this year. If you're here, thank you so much for joining us, Eleni. If you're with us, we'd love for you to ask questions, and we'd like for you to see, maybe if you look at the newsletter, I have drills for every one of the activities. I was thinking sort of the choreography of walking in, feeling strong and confident, introducing yourself, maybe asking an open-ended question, having a great 30-second pitch, and then the awkwardness of entering a conversation when there's a group that's standing, exiting a conversation from a group, or cutting off a conversation and walking away from one person that you've met. What's also really important is that you can find, or I would say mine data and get information from the person you're speaking with so that you can do some follow-up that's relevant and that is memorable. So those are all the things that have to do with standing out in a crowd. We also know that it's important to think of standing out from the standpoint of a virtual setting like this, or a meeting where you may be in, or being able to make a connection if you are introducing yourself on the LinkedIn platform. So we will be talking about that a little bit today. So I see that we have some friends from the US and from Chicago or from Illinois, which my friend Jodi will love seeing in just a little bit. When I thought about standing out in a crowd and giving drills in order to do that more, I couldn't think of a better person than Jodi Glickman. I first met Jodi. I was a super fan, a secret fan, you may say, when I saw her LinkedIn learning course. She has a latest course called Pitching Yourself for Opportunity, and we're going to give a link to that course at the end of the program. So Jodi is a professor. She is an author. She is a TEDx speaker. She's a coach. She's the CEO and founder of her company, and she really engages and really encourages people to be their best self. And I love that about her. She's also what I call a recovering investment banker, but she's practiced a lot of this and has seen people in action. So Shelby, let's bring in Jodi, coming in from Chicago, Illinois, to join us today. Thank you so much for saying yes. That's all I want to be sure to publicly share, Jodi. Thank you.
You're so welcome. I'm so happy to be here with you, Tatiana. Thank you for inviting me, and thanks for everyone for showing up today. This is so much fun.
Right. From all different places, including South Africa. So Jodi, let's kick off and get started. Do people really stand out to you when you meet them in a crowd? You're probably the speaker, the keynote speaker, or you're probably attending a conference. But what really stands out for someone when they walk up to you or when you spot them in a room physically? We'll talk about face-to-face first. What is it, and how does that get communicated?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's so interesting, Tatiana, because the answer is yes, people do stand out in a crowd, and you can stand out in a crowd, every single one of you who's listening today. And if I think about my younger self, when I would be in the audience and there would be someone I'd want to speak to, I wouldn't know how or why. And I think now with 20 years of experience, I'll age myself. It's pretty obvious. And from a
first when you were two.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. You're so sweet. The truth is there are a lot of kind of hacks that can help you look and sound confident in the moment, and they really do work. And I think there's this interesting conflict in the world of work between authenticity and between sort of conforming to what an occasion requires. And so I don't want to say to anyone ever, you have to like be someone you're not, because that's really intimidating. And I think it's bad advice. But if you can summon your kind of inner confidence to put your shoulders back, stand tall, make eye contact with someone, extend your hand, say hello, and project your voice. I mean, just those things. If you can just be sort of confidence in, hi, I'm Jodi Glickman. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for speaking to our group today. Just that goes a really long way to making a positive first impression. And you haven't done anything about like who you are and what you care about. You're not elbowing someone out of the way. You're just kind of grounded in your own personal presence of body language, eye contact, stance, and extend your hand and introduce yourself. That goes a long way.
I love this, the term grounded in your own presence, because quite often, especially after COVID, where we've spent so much time in front of a screen, it's difficult for some people that haven't practiced some of this to really do that. I just finished a 10-day long program with students who we were traveling with and entering conversations with speakers and in different companies. And I would see the ones that were more comfortable, as you said, and ones that needed more training. I don't even want to say coaching. They just need more opportunities to try some of this. And in the midst of meeting a lot of people, I also heard from a friend who confided in me that she used to, at a sit-down dinner, would be so nervous about being in front of a crowd that she was nervous enough to stand up and go to the bathroom. So I want to point out that this nervousness or uncomfortable sense of being in front of a crowd is real, but we can overcome it with practicing some. In my newsletter, I said, if you're in an athletic event, go to the bottom of the bleachers and walk in front of everyone so you can be seen. Or just, even if you don't have to meet everyone, just do some laps across the room to get used to being in front of a group.
I love it. It's really about getting reps. I think you called it training drills, but it is really interesting. Couple of things I'll say is, first of all, no one is going to remember you, and no one's as focused on you as you think. So when you, even if you walk in front of that athletic stadium and you trip and fall, you're going to be mortified for the rest of your life, but everyone else is going to forget it in 30 seconds. It's really true. Right. Yeah. But it is a matter of getting comfortable with it. I'll tell you a cute story. When I was starting out on Wall Street, I was a healthcare investment banker and I was an associate, meaning I had gotten my MBA. So I was, let's say, 29 years old at the time. And I worked on a floor with about 50 bankers. And about 2 to 3 weeks in, I realized there were several people I still hadn't met. And so I got up from my cube. I lived in Cube Land. And I got up and I would go to people's offices and I would sort of knock on the open door and I'd say, excuse me, do you have a second? I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Jodi Glickman and I just started. I'm 3 weeks in. And one of the women looked at me. She was a vice president and she said, oh, I thought you were an analyst until you opened your mouth. And I've never forgotten that. Now, an analyst was someone who was just straight from undergrad, so was 21. So just the virtue of me saying, hi, do you have a moment? I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Jodi Glickman. They were like, oh, you're an associate. You're an adult. You're not an analyst. You have the wherewithal to just come and introduce yourself. And I always think about how that small act made a difference for people. And it wasn't saying something brilliant. It was just being proactive and going out and extending my hand and saying, I'd love to meet you.
Right. And maybe that's the drill that we ask our friends to do. You go into a space, don't feel that you have the pressure of building rapport and following up. And let's just break it down and just do the, hi, my name is, introduce yourself, follow the conversation a little bit and say, I'm going to walk around and meet some other people, and then do it again. Maybe do 5 or 6 reps of that drill to get used to doing it. I think a lot of this is building up the endurance and being able to withstand the pressure, or the pressure that we sometimes put on ourselves. I love that story. You own that and you did that. And hopefully some people that hear this can also repeat that. I'm looking through who is joining us. We have people from South Africa, from India, from Illinois. Linda Nelson is my good friend, has jumped in as well. Washington State, all over the place. Be sure that you ask us some of your questions if you may have them. The first question I asked Jodi is, what really makes people stand out? And you focused a little bit on posture. I wanted to talk first on nonverbals. What is sort of the aura, or what is the nonverbal piece? Is it a pleasant look on their face? Is it making eye contact? Is it looking like they want to be there?
Well, yes to all. And it's almost easier to think about what not to do. So if I was on this StreamYard today, Tatiana, and I was looking down, or I was fidgeting, or I was checking my phone, or I was looking away, I mean, you'd find it very hard to have a conversation with me. If I was sitting like this and my shoulders were slouched, if I was like playing with my hair, if I was annoyed, I mean, there's a lot of things that we don't even realize where it makes a negative impression. So again, if you can walk in with a smile on your face, if you can walk in with eye contact, that's the quickest way to establish trust, as you know, is to connect with someone. And the quickest way to lose trust is to not connect with your eyes. We think you're kind of shady or you're shifty. And so I don't mean to underestimate the challenge for some people. Like, that itself can feel scary. There's no question. Looking into someone's eyes is making a real connection. But again, being grounded in your feet, shoulders back, standing tall, looking someone in the eye and putting a smile on your face. That draws people to you.
Right. And again, sometimes I ask people, I just said, just introduce yourself, but walking up to a group that's already formed in this social setting, it's okay to not do that right away. Sort of listen in and wait your turn to say, oh, that's a great point. My name is Tatiana, by the way. Thank you for speaking. If other people are around, that's another training drill to figure out how to step in and then introduce yourself. But I wouldn't do it in a way that interrupts something. Continue to gather data and keep going from there. I'm distracted as we're talking about making eye contact because I see all the people checking in from Guatemala and Egypt and connecting there. Linda has a really good question here, and it's evening in the Philippines. Linda says to us, absolutely, especially for neurodivergent folks, I would recommend if it's just one person that you connect with, or when it's a group, gathering some information and listening. And maybe you don't have to interject even, just get comfortable in being part of that group. But I also recommend, if it's too much information or if it's too much distraction in a group when you're standing, position yourself so that you are facing the person and then the wall is behind you, that all the craziness and the busyness is behind you. If you can help that, it kind of quiets the space a little more from a visual distraction, for sure.
I have two strategies that I often talk about breaking into a conversation. I think it kind of very much in line with what you're saying. And I think this is to Linda's point for neurodivergent professionals as well. So I say there's the two tactics. I use a football reference. There's the single sideline and the group tackle. And if you're going to do a group tackle, you've got to be someone who's pretty sort of confident, maybe more extroverted. You're okay sort of walking into a group saying, hi, I'm Jodi Glickman. So nice to meet you all. I'd love to listen into the conversation. You're not going to take the conversation over, but you can just introduce yourself to the group and then listen in, as you said, wait for more data, right? I think that's a great point, Tatiana. For other people, that's really intimidating, and that's like not going to fly. So the single sideline is when, if there's a group of people talking, it's totally appropriate, as you said, to approach one person. And maybe you connect with them with your eyes. Maybe you say, hi, so nice to meet you. I didn't want to interrupt, but I just wanted to listen into the group. And then, and they'll say, sure, come on in. And then you might say, if you don't mind, I'd love it if you would introduce me to the group if there's an opening. And so that's the way, get an ally. Don't feel like you have to tackle a group of 10. That's intimidating, but maybe just connect with one person. Hi, so nice to meet you. Didn't want to interrupt, but I'd love to listen in. And so those are two ways that you can get yourself into the group. And what I always say, you go in listen mode. You go in, you're respectful, let the banter go back and forth. And then when it's appropriate, you can lob in a question or a comment.
Right. Or just a comment. You're right. The sideline or the tackle. Jose asked us, and that's going to take us kind of into the next level from the physicality of walking into a space. He talks about the 3 things that we can do to start a meaningful conversation to ensure that you connect and promote a conversation. In my newsletter, I talked about building rapport at first, which means if I've never seen you or met you before, you pop in and I go, that's such an interesting painting behind you. Tell me more about it. That's probably right now what I would do is connect with something in your environment or say something maybe about the flag the person is wearing or the sweatshirt logo that is on them. That superficial level of building rapport, or what brings you here. Where did you come from? Or where do you work? That allows you, again, to collect some more data. But maybe I'll let you add some more on Jose's question.
Well, I love and I think you talked about, complimenting people is a really nice way to add some positivity, to make someone feel good. The old adage, what do people like to talk about most? Themselves, right? And the weather can get us all, through 30 seconds or a minute of conversation. It's just not that interesting. No one really cares about the weather, although I'm beyond envious that you're on the Mediterranean in Athens and like with blue skies.
It's been raining a lot. It's been raining, which is frustrating, but still it's cooling.
It's raining here in Chicago. We're close enough to Bloomington, Indiana. But I think it's an interesting way that you frame the question, Jose, because when you said, how do you start a conversation to ensure you will connect and promote a conversation that the other person would be engaged in? Well, you don't know the other person. So if this isn't a game of guessing, I don't know what the other person is going to engage in. But if I'm intellectually curious, and if I'm wanting to establish a real meaningful connection, then the best way I'm going to do that is by asking some questions.
Right.
And asking some questions about either someone's professional background or asking some questions about what are you doing next weekend? Or do you have a favorite hobby? Or so nice to meet you. How did you end up in this conference in DC? Are you from here? Is this your first time you've been in DC? I mean, it really is about asking questions where you can learn someone a little bit about them and try and see if I always say you're looking for kind of connective tissue.
For the next thing. Yeah.
Right. And to find if there's something, because here's the thing, and I work, I teach at Kellogg, as you mentioned. I teach a course called Selling Yourself and Your Ideas. I think a lot, and I have a colleague, Professor Craig Wortman, who always says, one of the generous things about networking is if you don't have something in common with someone, the generous thing is to not spend 10 minutes talking to them and wasting your time or theirs. Maybe if they're really interested in Greek history, the faster I can get them to you, Tatiana, the better for you and this person and me, right? So I almost think you never want to rope someone into a conversation. You're looking for genuine connection. And if and when you find it, the conversation builds. And if you don't, it's entirely appropriate to say, it was so nice meeting you. Have a great time at the conference. I'm going to go, meet a few other people, or I'm going to go find someone who's actually interested in brand development, because that's what I came here to talk tonight about. Right. So asking people questions is the first thing.
Right. And a follow-up question could be, wow, tell me more about that. Oh, really? Yeah. How did that come about? Like, think of how can the challenge and the drill would be to ask an open-ended question and get yourself, in the newsletter I wrote, see if you can stretch this to 2 to 3 minutes. That should be your training drill. Don't worry about following up. Don't worry about making, hopefully you'll make a positive impression, but I want people to get to the beyond the hello, my name is. And another important piece is to have the response to, tell me a little bit about you, Jodi. Everyone asks you that. Or how did you end up here? What brings you here? You also should be prepared to answer that because, as Jose asked, we want to be prepared to be memorable. So I know you do a lot of that, and we always, all of us, talk about that as that comes up so much. What is the special sauce with that? Tell me a little bit about you.
Well, I'm going to answer that in a second, but I just want to take us back like 20 minutes because I
Okay.
met the fabulous Shelby Merriweather when you and I started this call, and we
Yeah.
introduced ourselves, and Shelby works with
The
you,
amazing
Tatiana.
Shelby Merriweather. Yes.
Amazing, right? But I said to Shelby, where are you today, or where are you based? And she said, East Tennessee, which is kind of an interesting answer that I don't hear all the time. And it reminded me of a road trip when I drove from Illinois through Tennessee. And I'm thinking I must have gone through East Tennessee. And then we got to talking about Gatlinburg and about Dollywood and about the fact that she lives in a rural area and that she's got a growing family. And all of a sudden, all of these things that are fascinating to me, right? Because you ask a question and you're genuinely curious, and either you find some connective tissue or it's like, oh my gosh, you live in a small, she called it a hollow. When's the last time I talked to someone who lives in a hollow? I live in Chicago, right? Fascinating. So if you can be interested in people, right, it's just to your point about asking questions and finding some ways to connect meaningfully. So I just wanted to share that we just happened right at the top of the hour.
It just happened. You did it naturally too. But don't you think that, for me, I always tell people, when people says, tell me a little bit about you. Now you have to think about context, right? I'm not going to say I immigrated to the United States from Greece, blah, blah, so many years ago. Don't start with that. Think of a title. I'm an aspiring banker. I'm an aspiring marketing, however, and whatever the context is about, or I'm an experienced, or think of one or two words that describe you, and then you can lock in and talk a little bit about, I do this, which means, or for example, this is what I do. If you want that to be memorable, you don't want to speak like your resume. You want to talk about the experiences and stories that you have and give examples of what that is, or what you do, an example of what you do.
100%. And I think you nailed it. You and I are pretty philosophically aligned. When someone says, so nice to meet you, tell me about you, right? No one wants to hear your resume. No one, with all due respect to all of you young people on the call, like, I don't really even care that much where you went to school or how long you worked at P&G. I'm much more focused on what you're doing now or what you want to do going forward. I'm much more focused on what you're excited about, what you're passionate about, what drives you, what you're interested in, what you're curious about. So when you say to me, how can you introduce yourself in a way that's memorable? I always talk about focusing on your destination and focusing on the future. So I would, if I have this crazy background, like you have done a zillion things, many of which make no sense.
Investment banker that I said,
correct, right? I was a Peace Corps volunteer turned investment banker, not at all related to what I do today. But what I would typically say is, I run a leadership development and communication company, and I'm focused on building the bench of next generation talent. I love developing next generation talent. I care deeply about building the leaders of a 21st century workforce. That's what I do. That's who I am. And then the conversation can go in lots of different areas. Maybe the Peace Corps comes up. Maybe Goldman Sachs comes up. Maybe my 3-year sabbatical in Boulder comes up. Maybe my 3 children come up. Maybe Kellogg comes up. But I don't start by kind of reciting my resume or talking about all the things I've done. I talk about what's top of mind for me right now. So let me pause there, because then there's some hacks. The first one I'll say is, you choose. What do you want to talk about? What are you now excited about, engaged in, working on? If you're finishing up finals, do you want to talk about academics, or you want nothing to do with school? If you're going into a fun travel season, do you want to talk about international travel in Greece with Tatiana, or do you want to talk about maybe getting your MBA? You can lead the conversation in a way that's interesting to you, because we are all multifaceted.
Right. If I was talking to you and you said, I am passionate about growing the next generation of leaders, if
Yes.
I was connecting with you, I probably would say, tell me more about that. How do you do that? So I think about asking what and how questions that then give me more information and give you a chance to say, for example, let me give you an example, an idea of what we do with this program. So you would talk more about that. And then I could use that to say in my follow up, I sure hope these leaders are so happy, are so lucky to have you. And I can reference some of that if that's the conversation we have. I would like to shout out Kim Kaup because we talked about how
Oh,
Shelby
hi,
and
Kim.
I met. And here she is. Her ears must have been burning. And I
Totally.
love what she says about using ChatGPT to train through some of these
Yeah.
drills and using ChatGPT to role play some of
Yeah.
this. Tell me a little bit about you to kind of go through this back and forth. Now with Udily AI role plays, you can role play the whole thing of the persona of types of people you're going to meet.
Well, and I think that for sure that's 100% true. And it's a great way to kind of build that muscle of what does the back and forth look like. And listen, someone might say, I don't care about next generation talent, like pass, I'll move on, which is fine.
Yeah.
Someone
So
might
we're
say, like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
right. Or someone might be like, oh my God, give me your top 3 tips. Like I'm trying to get promoted. Or
Yeah.
someone might say, oh my God, we just had a terrible person come into my company. It was such a snooze fest. Tell me about what you do. I mean, the conversation can go in lots of different ways. I like the idea of role playing it. Think
Mm-hmm.
about, what do you wish people would ask you? Right? Like
Right.
that's the next thing. What's the conversation that you want to drive? If you really want to talk about, if you're working on a project right now, I just met Marcus Buckingham. We were speaking at an event together, the Marcus Buckingham, right? The
Oh, I'm
amazing.
jealous. I
He
am.
was so lovely. And he's talking about his new project, and it is Design Love In, and he did this amazing keynote, and we talked afterwards. And I love the idea of love. I talk about love at work. I always say love is a
Right.
4-letter word. But we
That
wound
was
up
the
having this.
first LinkedIn learning course that I saw.
Oh yeah, right, exactly, right. How to
Yeah.
make people love you. But it was
Yeah.
fascinating because I'm trying to think how I got to this conversation was, but like Marcus talked about love at work, which is a topic that I care deeply about, and I immediately flocked to him like, oh my gosh, I want to hear more. He was so
Yeah.
generous. He gave me his information and said, let's keep talking. Other people talked to him, approached him about different things, like different areas that they wanted to kind of follow up and ask about. So it's figuring out the kind of multiple places of entry for other people to get involved in your circle.
Right. I wanted to follow up with Kim's point that she said ChatGPT can help you lock in your intro. As you keep working with ChatGPT or you work with some of the AI tools that will give you, they give you ideas on being more concise. I've also used it to say, look up my profile on my LinkedIn profile and give me my 3 top characteristics because it's important for me to see how I'm perceived when I put enough information out there or I have my profile and maybe I lean in closer into one of those depending on the context that I'm in as well. By the way, Taisha, you're welcome.
I
Thanks.
love
This
it.
is one of my friends and colleagues. It's fun to have people here too. Let me see if we have any other questions or comments. Kim is saying, I always ask people, what are you excited about right now? That is a golden open-ended question. And back to what Jodi said, that they are just going to give you data, stuff that you can go back and forth on and be conversational on something they want to talk about.
Yeah,
Let
I
me
was.
see.
I just met with a woman a couple weeks ago. She was also a professor at Kellogg. We were meeting for the first time. We were talking shop and talking about work. And at the end, she's like, "Okay, I have to run, but before I go, what are you most excited about for the summer?" And I was like, "That's such a fun, cute question because summer's coming. Like everyone's excited about summer." The
Yeah.
other thing I'll say is, you know people don't always want to talk about work. Like, I think that right. I mean, it doesn't all have to be professional or academic. I love talking to people about restaurant recommendations, about book recommendations, about shows that I should binge watch, about places I should travel. So I always tell people too, like, what is of interest to you? What do you care about? What do you enjoy doing? Asking people or sharing a recommendation for let's go back to Tennessee. On my way, I drove
Yeah,
through Louisville, Kentucky, and I got a recommendation for like the best barbecue joint in Louisville, and I was so happy to have that as I was going on my road trip to Tennessee. So I think
right.
also if we can get out of this mindset of I have to talk about accounting or I have to talk about finance or I have to talk about AI. Also, like, who are you as a person? What do you care about? What's fun for you? Let me know where I should go to my next amazing spin class or where I should
Right.
go for a great hike or where I should eat next time I'm in Athens. Please God, I want to go to Athens.
I get so many of those questions.
I
It's
know. Of
funny,
course.
one of our speakers for our students, he started his talk by saying, I have made 0 deals at the conference table. I have made all of my deals at the dinner table. And he was
Yeah.
trying to tell them that you do not start conversations or relationships without food in the way involved. And also that how important that is in building trust. And it makes me think across cultures and even within a culture, we all have that tip of the cultural iceberg, which is art, music, culture, food, language, all of the things
Or
that are interesting to talk about, but they also give you a little bit of a behind the scenes. And as you said, asking, what are you the most excited about for the summer? What a great way to get to know someone. You can know if they have a dog, or if they live by the water, if they like hiking, or if they have a family, and that works so well. Yeah, as Taisha says, yes, be a human, and I would say be a human first. And possibly back to Jose's question in the beginning, I would even say steer away, practice the personal interactions, which means push yourself to start conversations. I know this sounds very cringe. Airports and laundromats and dry cleaners or um, uh, supermarkets where you can strike up a conversation with someone, and that's part of working the drill of
yeah.
you doing a little bit of that and getting comfortable, because you probably in a conference setting you feel like I have to tell them what I do and who I work for, and that's more nerve-wracking. I want to
Yeah.
see if we have more comments here.
There's a good one in the there's a good one in the chat box from John V. Maybe it's a silly question. Do you see that one?
Yes, tell me. Yeah, I'm having a hard time talking to you and keeping track of all of
I,
those.
I
Thank you
know.
for yes.
Well, and I just want to say one thing about those conversations. So I have 3 children, as Tatiana knows, 18, 16, and 12. My youngest, my little guy Emmett, had a friend over last week, and my housekeeper was here that day. And my son's friend Adam, who is a 12-year-old 6th grade boy. So let's just take your impression of a 12-year-old 6th grade boy, walks into
Yeah.
my home, says hello, and I introduce him to my housekeeper, and he says, "Hi, so nice to meet you. How are you?" And
Oh,
she says, "Well, thank you." And he says, "How's your day going?" And she said, "Great, thank you." And I looked at my husband and we were like, my children are heathens. They would never
A
do
plus of
that.
parenting. Yes.
Right? That literally. And I just thought this is a 12-year-old boy who's going to like smell bad in a year. And he's being really polite and mature and inquires as to how someone's day going. It blew my mind. But many adults don't do that. So like that is,
Yeah.
props on being able to communicate with people and
Right.
establish relationships.
Right. And feeling okay doing that. Let me tell you, I've spent many days with many students all the time. John V says, maybe it's a silly question. At times it's felt that the more loud and authoritative you are, the more attention you get. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a really interesting question. I'm curious for your take, Tatiana. I'm going to go with, I have to think about answering this. So I never want you to be someone you're not. If you are not loud and extroverted and outgoing, that is okay. And you're not going to fool the world forever. Sometimes for first impression, you need to, again, sort of ground yourself in your presence, project your voice, extend your hand, make yourself feel a little bit more confident. But as a general rule, I'm never impressed by people who are like, hey, I'm Jodi. Like,
I'm here.
right. Like,
Yeah.
forget it. And maybe someone notices them more, but no, I never want you to be that person. And I think they're usually kind of found out if they're trying to be someone they're not.
Right.
So I'd say it's way more important to find a way to authentically connect with someone than
Right.
try to be authoritative and pretend you know something that about which you don't know.
And loud. Two
Yeah,
things that
loud.
I know. Yeah, two things I noticed, Jodi. One is energy, like just brightness in general, sort of eye contact, just what energy they bring to the room. And another thing, I hope this doesn't sound biased, but depending on the context, I notice dress. I was just thinking of my son graduated and we had a little reception for faculty, and one of his coworkers in his internship was in a suit, and I thought he's overdressed, bless his heart, but I noticed how he was very prepared and he was making sure to talk to everyone. I notice how context related people are. Again, I don't care about brands, I don't care about show offish stuff, but that kind of tells me that they're prepared. Do you think that it makes an impression when someone shows up and they are dressed appropriately according to whatever the event is or the occasion?
100%. So here's what I'll say. We all know that you should not judge a book by its cover. We all know that it's what's on the inside that matters and not what's on the outside. And yet, we are all human and we judge. And so, what I say to my students is, in an ideal world, it wouldn't matter. But in our world, it does. And so what I always say is, and I appreciate how you said I don't want to be biased because this is a really fraught topic. But what I always say is dress the way you want to be perceived.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about sort of right or wrong. If you are going to be in a certain environment, then you may want to kind of adjust to the cultural norms of that environment, or maybe that's not the right environment for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if it feels so constrictive and so constrained and so inauthentic, then maybe it's not the right environment. Let's say that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How can you show up in a way that you are going to be perceived as blank, as someone who's professional, as someone who's authentic, as someone who is competent, as someone who is creative, as someone who is a renegade, right? Like, I don't know how you want to be perceived, but I do think that it's important to dress appropriately. In the same way, Tatiana, I'm not in sweatpants and a ponytail right now, which is, I promise you, how I will look in 20 minutes when we're done, right? I had a client.
I'm sure.
Right. And I'm not even that fancy, but I put on a sweater and I blew out my hair so I could look nice for you today. So it is a matter of course, it's a matter of respect, and it's a matter of professionalism. And I there's so many people out there. I remember reading a post, and I'm going to blank on her name. She's amazing. I'll have to think about it, but she's the blue-haired unicorn on LinkedIn, if you can find her. And she wrote a post how professional was never about women who looked like me or felt like me or loved like me. And she has blue hair, and she's part of the LGBTQ community. And I thought, oh gosh, okay, I don't want to aspire to professional if it's like exclusive to certain people. But it is, how do you want to show up in a way that is going to sort of show off who you are and what you care about and what your values are, and then the world can decide, right? So I do think it matters hugely.
Yeah, and if you have questions, always have people you can ask. Does this look good, or does this look appropriate, or would this work? And observe what people are doing before you step in, and that has to do with these professional settings, especially for work. Every different situation is different in the context and how we approach it, for sure.
I'll never forget the first time I worked with a creative agency. I walked in and I met the chief creative officer, and she was wearing a black motorcycle leather jacket and leather moto boots. And I was like, oh my God, she is so cool. And
Cool. Yeah.
I look like
That's
such a nerd, right? Like
I would do.
I gotta
I love
change
it.
things up if I'm going to a creative agency. I don't dress the
Yeah,
same way as I
yeah,
do on Wall Street. It's just
I love it.
adapted.
I wanted to, before we say goodbye, on anything on follow-up that stands out. First of all, always do it. I always remember way before the time of cell phones, I would leave conferences and have a notebook in the plane that I would write one or two little things about everyone so that I could incorporate them in my emails. Now you can put it in notes. You can actually even type it on your phone afterwards to remember. But does anything stand out to you that people should do in their follow-up?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love that you take notes and you've been doing it forever. And I find that I need to do that. And I'm always working on that. The way I think about it is the way to exit any conversation, I always say, are two things. It's thank you and it's forward momentum. And the thank you is either thank you so much for your time or thanks for engaging with me or for being helpful, right? You should always thank them for talking to you. And then forward momentum, which is right, kind of what you're talking about, which is either wishing someone like have a great rest of the conference or enjoy
Right.
your road trip to Nashville next week or have the best time traveling in Europe next month. Or
Right.
thanks so much. It was so nice meeting you. I'd love to stay connected. Can I
Yeah.
shoot you a note on LinkedIn? Or I'd love to follow up and schedule a coffee chat if you're up for it. The thing is,
But that's a great
right?
idea. Mhm.
For momentum. But the caveat is you don't have to stay in touch with everyone you meet. And so
Right.
I think we've all been in situations where I say, oh my gosh, it was so nice to meet you. Yes, definitely call me. We'll get together. And I walk away and I think, oh my God, I don't want to get together. Why did I say that? I just was like, it like came out of my mouth. And so
Mm.
I think of forward momentum as your kind of best friend. Forward momentum could be, oh my gosh, it was really nice to meet you. I will definitely read that article that you just told me about in the journal, or I'm definitely going to go check out that newsletter. That's
Or
enough.
that's enough. You're right. And then following up and saying, I love the article. Thank you. And then maybe follow up, like or share something that they do on LinkedIn. You never know, but it's important to stay connected for sure.
100%. Right. You can absolutely do that. That's kind of low touch. Just don't feel like you have to meet with someone or you have to, get together. It can be connecting on LinkedIn, which is a great way. I love your idea though, like promote or post something of theirs, be generous. What a beautiful thing
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah. And I told people in the newsletter, maybe think of the next event you attend. Maybe only with 3 people you're going to do a follow-up because you never know. You can be the connector, or maybe you're sharing an article, or you just say a thank you and that's it. That's all.
Totally.
Speaking of following up and thank yous, Shelby is probably going to do the little magic in the background. I'm in Greece and I didn't bring one of the stronger tumblers, but at the end of our show, this is what we do. Oh, you know what? Enter stronger in the chat for a chance to, we forgot to even say this. Shelby, shame on us. So let's have a drum roll. Take a few seconds. If you're in the class right now, drum roll from Jodi too. Put in a hashtag stronger so that we can put you in the giveaway that we do. I don't know if this is going to work. Oh, maybe we should do this, Shelby. We should take all the names and do our own giveaway thing at the end, since we don't have. Does that sound like okay? A good idea to do? We got too excited about our show. So we will go ahead and connect with you. If you were in the show, we'll put you in a raffle and we'll send you one of the tumblers. It always is the thing we forget to do. Jodi, I said this in the beginning. I've been a secret super fan. I'm very grateful that you took the time to share all of this wealth of information and juggled with everyone as they were coming in. Actually, people are entering the stronger. So thank you. And I will follow up. I told you I want to come to Chicago and have coffee with you because we have lots to talk about, but only when it's a good time for you.
Right.
Shelby, we've got enough people here that I think we can roll with this too. But I'll let Jodi go on to run her Uber service, and I hope you have good rankings as you go. You get good results on that. Let's roll with it, Shelby. I think we can. Do you think? All right, Jodi, thank you so much. Here we go. Look at all these sunshiny faces. And the winner is we got Jose. All right, fantastic. Jose, make sure that we get your mailing address. We're really good at sending things in different parts of the world. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll be in June's newsletter will be about building rapport on the same topic and I'll do a live just on some of the skills and drills for that. Have a great rest of the time. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.